Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly lecture videos. And this is the last video this week. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the fourth learning objective of chapter 3. So we will discuss using financial statement information and some problems with using financial statements. Okay. So essentially in this video, we will be looking at the reasons for doing financial statement analysis. How do we go about getting benchmark information, and then finally some problems. So first of all, why evaluate financial statements? As we have discussed, the primary reason for looking at accounting information is that we do not have, nor can we reasonably expect to get market value information, right? So it is important to emphasize that whenever we have market information, we will use it instead of accounting information, okay? Financial statement analysis is essentially an application of management by exception. In many cases, such analysis will boil down to comparing ratios for one business with some kind of average or representative ratios. Those ratios that seem to differ the most from the average are tagged for further study. All right. Okay. So if we go a bit more detailed, first of all is internal use. So financial statement information has a variety of uses internally within a firm. Among the most important of these is performance evaluation. For example, managers are frequently evaluated and compensated on the basis of accounting measures of performance, such as profit margin or return on equity. Also, the firms with multiple divisions frequently compare performance among the divisions. And another important internal use of financial statement information involves planning for future, right? Historical financial statement information is very useful for generating future projections. Okay. So next come to external uses. Financial statements are useful to parties outside the firm, including creditors, both short-term and long-term, potential investors, as well as customers and shareholders. We would also use this information to evaluate suppliers, and suppliers would use our statements before deciding to extend credit to us, right? Large customer will use this information to decide if we are likely to be around in future. Credit rating agencies rely on financial statements in assessing a firm's overall creditworthiness. Okay. We would also find such information useful in evaluating our main competitors. So we might be thinking of launching a new product. A prime concern would be whether the completion would jump in shortly thereafter. In this case, we would be interested in our competitors' financial strength. Okay. Finally, we might be thinking of acquiring another firm, and financial statement information would be useful in identifying potential targets and deciding what to offer. The next point we are going to discuss is benchmarking. Given that we want to evaluate a division or a firm based on its financial statements, a basic problem immediately comes up. Okay, how do we choose a benchmark or a standard point of comparison? Okay, now let's describe some ways of getting started in this section. First of all is time trend analysis. One standard we could use is history, right? Suppose we found that the current ratio of a particular firm is 2.4 based on the most recent financial statement information. Looking back over the past 10 years, we might find that this ratio has declined fairly steadily over that period based on this, we might wonder if the liquidity position of the firm has deteriorated. It could be, of course, that the firm has made changes that allow it to use its current asset more efficiently, that the nature of the firm's business has changed, or that business practice have changed. Okay. The next one is the peer group analysis. The second means of establishing a benchmark is to identify firms that are similar in the sense that they compete in the same markets. They have similar assets and operate in same ways. In other words, we need to identify a peer group. Okay, so there are obvious problems with doing this since no two companies are identical. Okay, ultimately, the choice of which companies to use as a basis for comparison is subjective. One common way of identifying potential peers is based on Global Industry Classification Standard, or GICS code. This set of industry codes was a joint development of Standard & Poor's and Morgan Stanley, and is an international approach to standardize industry definitions. Okay. The codes are broken down into 11 sectors, 24 industry groups, 69 industries, and 158 sub-industry groupings. Firms within the GICS code are frequently assumed to be similar. The last point we are going to discuss in this video is the problems with financial statement analysis. Look, as we discussed in our previous videos and in the previous chapters, there are many cases where financial theory and economic logic provide guidance in making judgment about value and risk. Okay, very little such help exists with financial statements. Okay, this is why we cannot say which ratios matter the most, nor we can interpret what is the high or low value for these ratios. One particularly severe problem is that many firms are conglomerates owning more or less unrelated lines of business. The consolidated financial statements for such firms do not really fit any neat industry category. Okay, so in that case, these different size operations will raise a question that what will be an appropriate peer group or an appropriate industry for the firm. Okay. Another problem is becoming more common is major competitors and natural peer group numbers in an industry may be scattered around the globe, right? The automobile industry, for an example. The problem here is that financial statements from outside, for example, Australia, do not necessarily conform to Australian accounting standards. The existence of different standards and procedures make it difficult to compare financial statements across national borders. Many countries are moving to adopt international accounting standards, and these will facilitate the future comparison of financial ratios. Even companies that are clearly in the same line of business may not be comparable. For example, electric utilities engaged primarily in power generation are all classified in the same GICS group. This group is often thought to be relatively homogeneous. However, utilities generally operated as regulated monopolies, so they do not compete with each other. Many have shareholders and many are organized as cooperatives with no shareholders. So these are several different ways of generating, there could be different ways of generating power ranging from hydroelectric to nuclear. So the operating activities can differ. Okay. Several other problems we can encounter. First, different firms use different accounting procedures. So it might be difficult to compare statements. Different companies may use different fiscal years. For firms in seasonal business, this could lead to difficulties in comparing statements of financial position. And finally, for any particular firm, unusual or transient events such as a one-time profit for an asset sale may affect financial performance. Such events can give misleading signals when we are comparing across firms. So essentially, that's the end of this video, as well as end of the lecture videos this week. Okay, so once you watch these videos, if you have any question and any problem understanding any of the concept, don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you very much.